but I jumped in and I had a chance to ask some questions to Bryn. And one of the most asked questions was for Denise, was how did you feel about reprising your role as Sela, and not only Sela, but Tasha Yar in one of our episodes?
This is one of the most incredible things to happen, because it gives me a chance to continue with sort of where I left off. And these guys create the most incredible storyline, the stories and the intensity of the through line, the input that I was able to give for the characters. I never, once again, thought I would ever be embracing my old friend Tasha Yar again.
She just keeps coming back.
I know Tasha has at least 9 lives. And the fact, you know, in particular with Sela, this was a character that I felt on the series had so much more story with her, and so it was sort of abruptly cut before she was fully realized. So this gives me a great chance to develop this character and take it to where I really always envisioned it.
I remember watching a video that Al posted at, I think it was less than a year ago, at the San Francisco convention.
Yeah,
if any of you were
November,
there.
San Francisco.
November,
yeah.
And well, you can tell the story.
Yeah, sure. So we had just reached out to Denise to see if she'd be interested in coming to doing the part of the game. And you never know whether or not someone's going to be, they're going to respond. It's actually pretty hard to get in touch with the celebrities to do voice acting on a video game. So you don't really know. So you send out the call to CBS and say, hey, you know, we've got this part that we really want Denise to play, and see if she'd be interested. And then you don't hear anything for a while. And then I go to the Star Trek convention in San Francisco. That's where we're located, the studio. And Denise comes up on stage, and the first thing she does, she walks up on stage and she says, guess what, everybody? I'm going to be in Star Trek Online, and Tasha Yar is going to be alive again. And she just lit up, and the stage lit up, and the audience lit up, and I could tell that she was excited about the part. And that's when I first met her, and I went and I introduced myself. I went up and did a question to ask her what did she want to see her happen to the character, and she already had the whole story ready. You already had your whole character. This is what happens, right? Yeah. So we knew. I mean, and she's just brought so much energy and enthusiasm than any other voice talent that we brought to the game. So it's been a real joy. She's really engaged with the community. So I'm pink.
Listen, I officiated at his wedding vows, his renewed wedding vows yesterday.
Congratulations.
I mean, we're tight. We're tight.
My wife and I renewed our vows on the bridge of the Enterprise in the showroom floor yesterday, and then she drops a bomb on me, walks in, and it's like, oh, I'm going to officiate, I'm going to do your wedding, and I almost passed out, right? so she married my wife and I yesterday, and that was
on
like
the
greatest
Enterprise
day.
D. On the Enterprise
D.
Yeah.
She owns the chair now. It's hers.
Yeah, you always should have been a captain. Maybe that's where the story's going to go.
You know, oh guys, that's a whole other story. And I'm an empress now,
yes,
so who needs a captain when you can be an empress? Though I have to just preface it by saying that, you know, I was attending conventions, you know, as we all do, and a number of fans always at a convention would say, do you know that Sela is on Star Trek Online? I go, huh? Well, yeah, Sela is, you know, she's alive and well, and she's like, you know, an empress, and she's ruling the universe. And I said, well, who's doing her voice? I said, no, we don't know. And I said, well, can you give me some information? So it was like a good year before I met you guys. The fans were already telling me, you know, you've got to like figure this out. So I wasn't going to let anyone else do the voice.
And you know, that brings up a good point, because you also played Tasha Yar in our episode Temporal Ambassador. Players were put in this alternate universe, and that's another question players asked is, which role was more interesting to bring back, and was it hard to step into those roles after being away from them for so long?
It takes a little bit. Unfortunately, you guys have great directors working on the game, and the writers, it's a very different process. You really are using your voice solely to communicate. So and there was one day when I played them both in one day, and I didn't even do that on the series. So that gets tricky. You have to really find subtle ways to differentiate between these two characters, which I had to do as an actor, and certainly had to do with my voice. So there were challenges that way, and it'd been a while since I'd played either one. So you can't take that for granted, that because you've done it before, you automatically will know how to do it again. It takes a little bit of finding it, but your team is fantastic up there and guided me through it, and we found it. We got into it.
Al, one of the ideas you had with Christine, our lead writer, was to bring back Tasha. How did that evolve? And then, as well as Sela, where is she at right now? Where is she going in the game?
Well, one of my personal favorite episodes is not forget the name of the episode. Yesterday's Enterprise, yeah. So that's just always been one of my favorites. And when our anniversary event was coming around, one of the only ships that wasn't in the game yet was the Ambassador class. And he said, okay, well, we'll do a special mission for the Ambassador class where all the players get earn the Ambassador class. I said, well, let's see if we could get Denise Crosby to come in and play her role. So how are we going to make that happen? Well, we also have a lot of Tholians in our game, and the Tholians are always messing with time and space. And so we kind of merged a little bit of the stories between Yesterday's Enterprise and Mirrored Darkly from Enterprise, where the Tholians are kind of going back and forth in time, and mirror universes capturing ships. So we figured, at first what we wanted to do really was get the players to kind of go back in time and save the Ambassador class when Tasha and the Enterprise C and Castillo go back in time and fight the Romulans. And you go there and actually save them and stop that from happening. But it was just going to be too ugly, and it was probably going to mess the timeline, and CBS probably would have said, "You can't, that's crazy." So we decided, well, what if we just intercept that return when on the way back from that alternate timeline, when Tasha's back alive, and Tasha going back in time to fight the Romulans, that the Tholians intercept the time stream and capture the ship. And in doing so, Tasha and Enterprise C's never get back to the past, and so the timeline is completely altered. Then the player is back in it, just like we did in Yesterday's Enterprise, where the timeline is completely shifted. The player's timeline is completely shifted, and now the Tholians have basically taken over the galaxy. And so you end up at a mining station, and you meet Tasha and Castillo and the rest of the Enterprise crew, and they still know what happened, and you have to help them reset the timeline. And the Enterprise C is parked there in an asteroid. You got to steal the Enterprise C, and Tasha is the star of the episode. She's just guiding the player the whole time. So it's a real treat because you're interacting with her the whole time, and you get to go home, and then you get an Enterprise C as your prize. So that was, and it was just probably our most popular mission episodes we ever did in the game. So, kudos, she nailed it. Really did.
She did. And when you jump in and play, it's one of the earlier missions, so you can get there pretty quickly, and it's really fun. It's awesome. But we do want to open it up for questions. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to line up. But before we do, we will be doing a panel tomorrow for Star Trek Online with Al, myself, and 2 other developers in the secondary theater at 11:50. So if you have questions about the game in general, if you can, save them for that panel. We'll be revealing some spoilers coming up for our upcoming content update. And we're also giving away codes to get you in-game and a free item. So stop by, pick up a flyer, there's a code on there. But with Tasha and Sela, you also recently have started playing Deb on Ray Donovan. And it's
nice
who's
segue.
seen Ray Donovan? Has anyone? It's an incredible, incredible show. So you're working on Ray Donovan. What other projects can players catch you on?
Well, let's see. Well, last night was Invasion Roswell. Anybody catch it on Sci-Fi Channel last night? I don't think they have Sci-Fi.
Got one over
Yay!
here.
I haven't even seen it, so.
Way better than Sharknado.
No, it's, you know, I don't know if there were any sharks in it. I can't remember. It was sharks in Bulgaria. So Ray Donovan's been picked up for a second season. Thank you very much. It's very exciting. The show's getting a lot of good feedback and buzz, so that'll come up fairly soon. I think maybe in November we'll start back to work on that. So please stay tuned. That's enough on my plate right now. A couple other things, but
And hopefully, maybe coming back for some more Sela.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of Sela story to tell.
These guys, I can't even begin to tell you the stories because you have to stay tuned and play the game, and I don't want to spoil anything. But
Denise will be back. We've got a pretty important story arc to wrap up. So we'll hopefully be working with her for a very long time.
Great. I enjoy it so much. I have to tell you that I was so impressed by my visit to Cryptic Studios and the way they've got it, the way these guys work. Brandon, you should tell them how the game came about, how, you know, Star Trek Online was almost dead in the water until these guys saved it.
Well, yeah, we launched in 2010. It was in production for a long time. It moved from a different studio over to Cryptic, who launched it very quickly. And since then, it's just been an incredible uphill movement. New players are coming in. I think with the new movie and our most recent expansion, I mean, when another game have you been able to play a Romulan and really like that and fly Romulan ships? So more players are playing than ever from all around the world. And yeah, it's an incredible time to be playing right now, especially with Legacy of Romulus. It's such a unique story. There's an enemy you run into as well. We call them the silent enemy. They're from Enterprise. You first seen them in Enterprise. So what we can do in the game is take stories that, you know, had an ending, but where did it go after that, and continue to tell that story. So we have a lot in store. So if you can, definitely stop by our panel tomorrow. We have some amazing things coming up before the end of the year that players are going to get to experience. So it's going to be great. Yeah, let's open to questions. We'll start here on the right, and we'll alternate.
Hi, I played the game since beta, really loved it, and I was wondering, what made you choose the Tholians instead of the Borg? I mean, with the Borg invading all of the Federation Klingons, why not the Borg? Why the Tholians?
So I guess that question is for me. The Borg are all over the game, so they're a pretty endgame threat in the game, and they're going to continue to be a recurring enemy. The Tholians are, I mean, the game can't always just be about the Borg. The Tholians are much more appropriate for this story arc because of the way that they like to, you know, interrupt and mess with the timeline. There's some soft canon books that actually say that the Tholians coexist in both the Mirror Universe and the Prime Universe, and they don't understand why non-Tholians are so chaotic and crazy, so that, because they don't see the difference between the two universes. They live as one. That's kind of basically what happens in Mirror Darkly in Enterprise, which is a brilliant episode where they pull the Defiant from the TOS era. And it's the same Defiant there. So they pull it from a different universe across time. So since they were able to do that, it made perfect sense to use that canon, that ability that they've shown before in the show, to steal the Ambassador and Tasha Yar and Castillo. So that's why we chose them.
Thank you.
And they haven't been featured much in, you know, on screen. So to see them in the game and how they actually interact with their combat and their ships and the webs, it's a really fun, unique experience that hasn't been really in any other Star Trek game that I've played. So,
but there's plenty of Borg, so
plenty,
yeah, plenty,
tons.
Hi guys, hi Denise. I'm learning new things here about the game, so that's awesome. I know that you were involved in the gaming process. That's really great. You might have to check it out.
Thank you. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. My wife and I are watching Next Gen, so it's a Next Gen question I'm going to ask for the first time for her because she hasn't really seen most of it. And watching it, I really liked your character in the first season. It was very raw, everything was very raw, the characters, but you were a very strong character. And in a way, you almost reminded me of a female Riker, kind of like, you're kind of very similar, but I like the female strength. My question is, if you were to go on the show and have your own casting decision, would you have played her differently than what was presented? And question 2 is, why did you leave the show?
They're kind of interconnected, those two questions. Tasha Yar was a dynamic, fabulous character. I adored her. I loved the challenge. I was always looking for the vulnerabilities and the opposites in her. Here she's in this position of great strength and power and you know, in defense of the ship, yet inside of her she's a very fragile child that you know, was from a horrible background, has lost her entire family, her parents, but yet what better than someone who was able to fight all of that adversity and rise to the top of her field. You know, so within that, it was a great complex character, and I especially always wanted to play her. I didn't want the perfect profession and the perfect person. You know, that isn't what life is, and I felt Star Trek was ready to have, you know, fragile and not perfect people. So the problem that I encountered, and it was, you know, one of great frustration for me, was that television in 1987 was beginning to change, and there were a number of large ensemble pieces with multiple storylines going on. However, Gene Roddenberry himself said that that would never happen on The Next Generation. He was keeping with the original format of the original Star Trek in the 60s, where the show would center around the captain, the first officer, and Data. And that we would be sort of, we would fill in on occasion. And I had to really ask myself, is that okay for me as an actor? And it wasn't. I was too passionate about acting. I was too young and hungry and just starting out on my career to begin to want to settle. So I had to make a decision to leave, and Gene got that. He got that. Any other, you know, when you sign a contract for a television series, you can't get out of it. And the only way I was able to get out of it was that Gene Roddenberry had total control of the show and got that where I was coming from. And there was no hostility, there was no, you know, negotiations or money issues. It was purely an artistic, a creative ambition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go over here.
How are you guys doing today?
Very
good.
well.
Ms. Crosby, it's great to meet you. I think it's great that you're doing voiceovers on Star Trek Online. And for the panel, I think it's great you also included Zach McClino and Leonard Nimoy for voiceovers. My question is, will we be seeing any more voiceovers for Star Trek Online? Like maybe Michael Dorn could narrate some Klingon episodes or something like that.
Well, you also have Chase Masterson, by the way.
I forgot about her.
Yeah, she plays holographic Vita at Zalo tables. We're always interested in getting more voice talent. Certainly, the list of who would love to see in the game is tremendous. I'd love to get Michael Dorn. I'd love to get Frakes and Mulgrew and Jerry Ryan.
William Shatner.
Shatner, sure. I'd love to get them all. It's quite challenging to work out the contracts sometimes. When you get lawyers involved, things get difficult. But I can probably safely say that you can very much look forward to seeing continuous new talent come in on a regular basis. Starring like Denise did in feature roles as far as featured episodes and further expansions. So we have some things that we are working on. I can say that, but I can't say who at this point. It's way too early. But keep your ear to the ground and keep watching the site. You'll see some great surprises. Hopefully, we get things to work out. And of course, we'll have Denise return to reprise her role in the near future.
Looking forward to it.
Great.
Thank you.
I love the shirt so much.
Thank you.
So do I. Thank you.
All right, we got one over here.
All right. Hello to all three of you. Thank you for coming down. This is a question for Ms. Crosby about Tasha Yar. She appeared in the first 2 episodes after she had died, Yesterday's Enterprise and All Good Things. I was just wondering, did you get to play her any differently in those 2 episodes than you were playing her in the first season?
That's a good question. Well, Yesterday's Enterprise, I got to have a romance, which was very revealing of a character, and I couldn't have had a better partner in Chris McDonald. He is, I adore him, and I hope you guys get a chance to meet him one day, Lieutenant Castillo. We laughed so hard we nearly peed our pants every day. So that was great, and All Good Things was nice because I was so glad that they included Tasha Yar in that episode, and really bookended the series that way. And she was a really meaningful character in a lot of people's lives, and I certainly didn't know that, in that first year. And I've since, of course, learned so much in 25 years since the show how she touched people. So I was so grateful to be included in that. And it took me a little bit to find her, This is what I mean about taking things for granted. You think you've done it before, you should be able to do it again. But I suddenly found myself, sitting in my spacesuit next to, Captain Picard, and went, wow. I don't, what do I do now? It took me a little bit to get back into finding her. But, she lives within me, so it was all there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we got time for a couple more, or at least one more. Over here.
Hello. Yes, the game sounds terrific, people. I mean, I can hardly wait to check it out. And I have a next generation question for Ms. Crosby. Earlier you were talking about Mr. Roddenberry and his directive. I mean, the action is going to center on the captain, the first officer, and Data. I mean, I have a what-if question, and you're probably sick of the what-if questions, but in this case, it was in the 3rd season that Michael Piller came on and took control of the series and told the team of writers, okay, this is going to be a new deal. We're going to center on one character for each episode. It's not going to be the same as it was before. And so, I mean, what if? What if you had known that Michael Piller was going to come on and have that sort of directive for the writing staff? I mean, obviously Tasha Yar would have, made her way into the, spotlight of, one character at a time directives. I mean, if you had known that, what if? I mean, do you see, would that have made a difference as far as your first season decision at that time?
It's impossible, as you know, to forecast what's going to happen. I do know that at the end of the first season was a bit of a mess, in many ways. This is common for most series. It takes a season for a new television show to find its legs. You just don't know what you have. Writing staffs change, actors, who are these people? And it takes a while. I think that's what they needed. They needed Michael Piller to come in with, as talented as he was, with fresh insight, and that's what I was looking for, you know? And I didn't want to leave the show, but, you know, what I was leaving the show for was exactly, you know, what was fixed later on. So that, but probably by the third season, had I stayed on, I think the show would look entirely different than it ended up looking to begin with. They were going to make some changes. I know that. Now, by me leaving, changed everything. Now, I don't, you know, I'm not really at liberty to say what those changes were going to be, but the show, The Next Generation, was not going to be the same the next season. But because I left, it centered, and nobody did anything. They hunkered down then. So it became what it is. But I know that, you know, it took a while, but I love you know, I love Yesterday's Enterprise. Yesterday's Enterprise never would have happened. Sela would never have happened. You know, all these other, you know, various things. So it's all meant to be the way it panned out. Thank you. One more?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah? Oh, yeah.
Thank you. One, I rather enjoyed your acting and everything on the series. I was actually really bummed as a child when your character died.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was one of the first strong female characters I'd ever seen on screen, so...
Thank you so much.
I kind of grew up on Next Generation. The question that I actually have is actually in regards to SDO specifically. I've been playing from almost the beginning. I didn't beta test it, but I've got a character that is insanely powerful in that game. And I was just wondering, I noticed with all the voice acting and everything, are there any plans or anything to be able to give the player, the character you're actually playing, a voice instead of, "Hi, how's it going?" Your character sits there, moves their mouth, and then you get subtitles for text. But I was wondering if there was anything to be done, kind of like how Star Wars: The Old Republic did, with actually having a voiced character that you play.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to answer that quickly with the time we have. In working with MMOs, it's generally different. It's not that it can't be done. It's generally different to have a game where the player invents their own character. Right? They pick a race, and we've got, I don't know, dozens and dozens of races that you can choose from. Everyone from the Federation that I could think of. And you pick, you know, and the gender, and you pick so many traits. It's so specific to you. Unlike a game, if you ever played like a game like, you know, like Tomb Raider, and they're making the character for you. They're making, you know, they're defining what you're playing, and they decide what the voice is. We generally take the stance that when a player is making their own character, if we assign a voice to them, nothing is more disappointing than to hear your vision of what your character is like, to have some other weird voice with a squeaky voice or a dark voice, like, that's not my character. So we leave that blank to the player's imagination. I think other games may have taken a different stance. That's not the one that we want to take. But we do want to add more and more voices to the rest of the supporting cast. Voice acting is slow, tedious, and expensive process, and we iterate so quickly when we make these the missions and this content that it's not always practical to voice everyone. But we've definitely made a decision not to give players define what they sound like. That's something we want the player to kind of role play and decide for themselves who their character is, and not, you know, not tell them what it is. So that's what we do.
I think, sadly, that is all the time we have for this panel. Again, we will be tomorrow at 11:50 in the DeForest Kelley Theater. Please join us. Continue asking questions. We'll be in the vendors room as well. Feel free to come up and talk to us.
Yeah, there's on Saturday at 5 o'clock.
Oh yes.
There's a developers meet and greet for all the Star Trek Online developers. Will be there. Where is that at?
In the iBar. That's at 5 o'clock.
So
there's 8 of us here, so
yeah.
come on out. And a special thank you, really, on behalf of all of our players and everyone on the team, to you for all of your amazing. You're part of the family. So thank you.
Thank you guys. Please check it out and talk to these guys. They'll answer everything for you. Thanks so much
Enjoy
for
the
coming.
con. Cheers, guys.
Have a good rest of your day.
All right, thanks so much, guys, and we're all looking forward to seeing that, and of course, great to have Denise back with us. Once again, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. The fine folks at CBS Consumer Products never fail to find amazing licensees who come up with trend-setting and fashion-forward, forward-thinking items and services, hard goods and software for the noble Star Trek franchise. We have the fine folks from Eagle Moss Collections